We're listening to who, Darren?
Huh?
What is this? The Naked Moment of Weakness?
Yeah.
Hey, Facebook. We got Rick in the house. Say hi, Rick. And that is Biff Naked Moment of Weakness, brought to you by co-host Darren Gaylor, who's now holding the camera. You're listening to Talk Recovery Radio on 100.5 FM, Vancouver Co-op Radio, powered by New West Recovery, last door in Westminster House. And that was a great show that we had earlier. You can replay that on iTunes and SoundCloud. We interviewed Janelle Hanchett from Renegade Mothering, all about motherhood and recovery and addiction. She told a bit about her personal story. It's got a huge Facebook following, like 60,000 people or so. Wouldn't mind a couple of those thousand on ours as well. So that was a great interview. And now we've got in studio with us Richmond Addiction Recovery Services. There they are. Yes, they are. Hi, Richard. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. And so you're in Richmond and you provide addiction services, obviously from your name. I'd let our listeners know a little bit about what your service is and what they do.
Sure. So we've got three main programs. I'll start with the community prevention program, where we have prevention specialists and prevention workers working within Richmond, within the school district and the greater community, creating awareness, bringing in guest speakers, pulling off events that focus on recovery, focus on wellness, and making sure that everyone in Richmond knows where to go when they need help. We also have a youth and family program that focuses on counseling and support services for youth who are under 24 and their families. And included in that is our Constructive Alternative to Teen Suspension program, which is a program that we work with the school district to ensure that there's a consistent response to dealing with youth who are struggling with substances and maybe using substances at school and on school breaks and so forth. And then our final program is our Aging Well program, which serves seniors who are over 55 who need outreach services, who need us to come to them because of various barriers that may get in the way. So it's all about low barrier service.
Seniors that have addiction issues?
That's correct.
Okay. So what's the climate like in Richmond right now? I mean, we all know what the climate's like in Vancouver, and everyone's talking about the overdose crisis and so forth. Does Richmond have a strip? What's it like out there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wouldn't say that Richmond has a strip per se, but there's definitely pockets of street in-trans folks that are working or living and getting together, whether that's behind a liquor store or a bottle depot or under a bridge and so forth. I mean, the homeless population is widespread in Richmond. They pick out pockets and find places where they're not in view of others, and so it seems very much like it's a hidden problem. And I think that's our situation. I mean, our police and our street workers that go out have to go out into the bush, along the dike, under bridges to find those folks that are there. There is an encampment in Hamilton now, and so certainly...
Is that a part of Richmond? Or?
Yeah, Hamilton is very close to New West, but it is a
okay.
part of Richmond, yeah.
Okay, I never knew there was anything called Hamilton.
Yeah,
Okay,
so there you go.
And so there's an encampment out there.
Yeah, there is.
So I was in this last week. There's just been a lot of noise. There was the Safe Supply Rally, National Overdose Awareness Day, whichever you want to call it, on Tuesday. On Sunday, I wanted to get the full picture, so I went out to Maple Ridge, and they had the anti-low barrier housing rally as well, and all these people, a lot of loud voices. Who's right, who's wrong, depends on what side of the fence you're on, and so forth. There's concerns on both ways. I don't agree with everything, and I don't agree with it's just you can get lost in the noise. Is Richmond, the community, how are they dealing with, because in Maple Ridge they've had enough. They're like I can't even leave my lawnmower outside without it getting stolen. If I was to leave, I talked to this one guy and he's had quite a few things stolen from him, and it's interesting because I live in New West. we have everything outside and nothing's really gone missing. So I guess it really just depends. Is there that attitude in Richmond? Because, Richmond is part of the metro, Vancouver area. So what is the attitude out there when it comes to this?
Well, it really depends on who you speak to, of course.
Yeah.
And certainly Richmond is a very diverse, multicultural community, and so it really depends on how people are impacted by whatever it is that's coming in. And certainly NIMBYism does happen and does occur in Richmond, and certainly when the community was struggling with finding out whether there was a good space for the temporary modular housing, there was certainly
And so you have modular housing out there?
We do.
Okay.
It's just about to open. Rain City is just about to bring in their new clients in, and it's a major win for the community, and it's something really important because again we do have a homeless population, and so it's crucial that those folks have a safe place to live. But it's clearly not what's happening in Maple Ridge. I mean, there is a lot of wealth in Richmond, and you don't really know whether there's someone who's wealthy and someone who's not wealthy in Richmond, depending on what their house looks like.
I'm glad you brought that up because there's this conversation, and I'm going to be honest, there's this conversation out in the addiction treatment world where Richmond is a high population of the Asian community and so forth, where addiction is not okay, and a lot of it's hidden, and a lot of it is you don't. I know firsthand experience people that get shipped back to China. It's just like, no, it's a disgrace to the family. These services in BC just are not adequate. It's like we're sending them back to China where there's a totally different treatment approach, which is more along boot camp. Do you experience any of that? Do you see any of that? Or
Well, yeah, I mean, there's stigma in every population, in every culture. Certainly it exists in the South Asian Punjabi-speaking population as well. I mean, stigma occurs in the Caucasian community.
How do you deal with it then? So when some 19-year-old or 18-year-old kid comes to you, because this is what we want our listeners to hear is, so what do you do? Because there's I don't have a problem. It's just a little bit of heroin, and then it's like I can't tell my mom.
Mm-hmm.
How does somebody get through?
Yeah, I mean it's a challenge, and the thing I find that this stigma gets in the way of things is when you ask for help, and when the red light goes on, and when there is huge amounts of stigma, there tends to be a delay in asking for help, and so it waits until the family is completely apart. It waits until the people need to kick their kids out. It waits until there's massive crisis and chaos. And that's a problem, right? Because we want to prevent. We want to get in the way of the cycle and the damage that can happen. So asking for help is critical, and stigma gets in the way of that. And so when young people come to us, or when families come to us and drop off their child and say, please help our child, we want to engage the parents in the process too. So we have bilingual counselors. Fortunately, we've got counselors that speak both Chinese, Cantonese, and Mandarin. We've got a counselor who speaks Punjabi now, and so that really helps us help the family. And when the family is disconnected, we divide and conquer. We offer a counselor for the youth, and then we offer a counselor for the parents. And eventually, we want to get everyone together because that's family counseling is critical there.
So one of the social media themes out there is there's no services in BC. I kind of differ because I'm like, there's a lot of services here. I'm fortunate enough, I've been to other provinces. I've been to conferences across the country. I've been to even conferences in the States. And I always do a bit of research, and it's like, there's not a lot of services here. But when you come to BC, you've got outpatient, there's so much. Why? So when somebody comes to you and they want to access service, so I call you up and it's like, hey, I've got a kid who won't stop using drugs. Can you let her, what's the first thing that happens? An assessment, and there's right away, is there a wait list?
Yeah, great question. I was interviewed by a group of Windermere secondary students yesterday, and they asked me the exact same question.
Perfect. Well, at least I've got the same.
So yeah, I mean, It really comes down to whether they can drop in and see a counselor right away, whether they make a phone call and we do a quick phone assessment, invite them in for a planning session, and all of that can happen pretty quickly with RAS. And so once we invite them in for a planning session and meet them face to face, we then can get assessment of what are they needing. Do they need counseling? Do they need a recovery day program? Do they need treatment? Do they need to go to detox? Do they need other concurrent or mental health? Do they need to see a doctor? And all of that can be done.
And it's all free?
All of that's completely free.
And
absolutely.
It's covered by, are you Fraser Health?
No, we're Vancouver Coastal Health.
Oh, Vancouver
Richmond.
Coastal Health.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now somebody wants to go to treatment. I'm 18 years old and I want to go to, like my addiction, it's bad. Like outpatient counseling probably ain't going to do much. I want to go to treatment. So what's the next step?
Well, we complete referrals,
Yeah.
lots of paperwork, and so it's a wait usually, but obviously we work with Vancouver Coastal Health and their intake team, and we see whether or not Peak House is available, whether or not the program in Osoyoos is available, that PCRS is now running. We look at whether Carlisle is the right spot. So it's difficult. It is, and usually there's a wait, and so really it's because residential is the most expensive. We look to see whether our community can hold the family and the youth while we wait, and so detox is sometimes discussed. And now there's a few more supportive recovery houses in Vancouver that we access, and so it really comes down to what the client is ready for and meeting their needs, because lots of times, like you said, youth think they've got a problem and they come in and ask for help, and tomorrow they won't have a problem. So the window of opportunity, and you were kind of talking about it earlier, the window of opportunity can be very narrow and can shut really quickly, and so we need to have services that are on demand. And so I have to say that that's something that I push for. And so it's really up to us, the service providers, to be able to navigate and be able to understand what's available, when it's available, and so that we lead our clients and support our families to go where they can get access right away. It's all about access for me.
So I want to get in, we only have a few minutes left. I want to get into some of these events that you're organizing, but I wanted to, it's a big question, so hopefully you can grab onto it in short time. Iceland, I was doing some research and I actually just posted it today. One of our speakers at the Recovery Capital Conference is going to be an organization called Planet Youth. And Iceland had some of the worst addiction to alcohol rates than anywhere in the world. And they did a huge campaign of connection and community engagement with kids, and tons of money poured into high schools. I mean, they're going to talk all about it at the conference and so forth. But if you look at their consumption rates for alcohol and marijuana and other drugs, it's like it's almost off the charts down. There hardly any kids that have grown up in that era are using anymore. I mean, we're talking about safe supply, we're talking about harm reduction, we're talking about all that. Do you think we've failed in prevention?
Well, I mean, prevention is the first thing to get cut when there's funding cuts. So prevention is very difficult to measure as well. And so in today's world, we're very much driven by evidence-based practice. And if you don't have the evidence, then you don't get funding. And so
it's almost like if you don't have the evidence right away.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, well, that's the other thing too. Our funders need to be patient and need to understand, but we're not funded for research. I don't get funded for measurement and evaluation, but it's included on all of my expectations in my reports. So I've read about Iceland, and it's amazing. I mean, the word you bring up is connection, and connection is critical, both whether it's youth or adult. It doesn't matter. Seniors. I mean, we have disconnected and vulnerable seniors. We have disconnected and vulnerable youth. And what happens? We've learned from the colonial impact on our indigenous populations, where you take away their culture and you create disconnection and dislocation. What happens?
They need to find it in something
That's
else.
right, exactly. And so it's great that they're coming to the conference.
I couldn't believe
it.
I was just looking at these charts. I'm just like, no one's using there anymore. Amazing. It's like it's not even. It's just not there's no big 420 festival going on in Iceland. No. There's going to be some people, obviously, but it's not the number one trending conversation on social media out there. And it's quite interesting what's happening there. So I'm excited to learn more, and I truly believe, we have to wait and get the numbers later. But it's like you said, it's all research. I remember they wanted to do some research on our organization last door, and it's just like, it's like $500,000 to do a research project these days if you want to do a real one anyway. And it's like, no one's going to pay for that, no one's going to pay for that. So,
well, I'm really excited about being a part of Foundry, BC, and bringing a Foundry site to Richmond, because along with that funding and that program, Foundry Central Office has done an amazing job to bring along research and bring along evaluation and measurement, and it's going to be across the province. So it's going to be very powerful research and very powerful ability to look at the outcomes. So it's a great project to be a part of.
So you have some events coming up. Richmond Addiction Services. That's our previous guest. Here we go. I want to get the names right. So there's 2 events. I think they're on. Is it a weekend? May 4th?
Yeah. So Swing for Recovery is our inaugural slow pitch tournament, and we really want to encourage teams to come out, and individuals, even if they want to call the recovery coach and sign up to be on a team.
Okay.
But it's really around creating more awareness and having some fun. So it's all about being able to have fun without substances and come together as a community to support our Recovery Day program.
Okay.
Recovery Day program is not a funded program. I write grants for it. We raise fundraising dollars for it. And it's a critical program because it allows our recovery coach to connect, mentor, and connect those youth to services that they need. Whether it's counseling within us or whether it's housing with other agencies, whether it's seeing a doctor, connecting with a psychiatrist. So our recovery coach is amazing at making sure youth can get connected. And it's something that's really
and feel listened to and all that rather than
absolutely
just an appointment. So you can register yourself for a team for Swing for Recovery Slow Pitch. You're also, and this is all part of Youth Week.
That's correct.
And you're also having an information fair. So tell us what that's about.
Yeah, the Youth Wellness Fair is just running alongside. We're just bringing community partners together to again connect our community to the services. So there's a number of initiatives like that across Richmond.
And where's the fair?
So it's right at King George Park, right by Canby.
Richmond?
Yeah,
King George, okay.
Yeah, it's right behind Canby Secondary. So it's a great place.
And the hours of the information fair are?
Yeah, we're gonna. It should be around I think 10 till 2.
10 till 2. Okay,
yeah, our opening ceremonies. The Mayor Brody is coming out to throw the first pitch, and we're gonna have O Canada. Sung by Rich City Idol, Jezebel, and it should be a good day.
Okay, excellent. So, your Facebook page is Richmond Addiction Services.
RAS BC, I believe.
RAS RASS BC.
Yeah.
So we've just got a couple of minutes left. So let's have a conversation about, I noticed in in all organizations kind of lately, maybe it's social media, I'm not too sure, a lot of people are really getting into having events for their clients and kind of getting community involved and so forth. So, a lot of people, when they think of addiction, they think of the drug and I need medication. So how, if we can talk a little bit, we've literally got 3 minutes left, how important is it to move past that and work on that biopsychosocial approach? Because it's not about baseball.
No.
You guys aren't there, let's play ball, what's it about?
Well, I think this is really about a metaphor, and it's about having fun and learning how to play and learning how to be together. It's creating an alternative, right? It's lots of people link and associate drugs and alcohol to celebration. They link drugs to sad events. There's an association of football and beer. That's just what happens, right? And so we want to link community connection to having fun. We want to bring people out from their homes and learn to live together. And so it's really about making sure that people understand that there's lots of friendly people out there and that we're all the same, even though we may look different or come from a different country.
Yeah, I remember being brand new in recovery. There's no nice people out there.
Exactly.
And now I look back, I'm like, what was I thinking? Well, thanks for being on our show today. Richmond Addiction Services, RASS. You can go online. You can go on our Facebook page to get links to their organization and so forth. And I'm going to take the camera back from Darren because Darren's going to be closing off our show. And appreciate you being on the air with us. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, everybody, that's Talk Recovery on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. Stay tuned for World Poetry Cafe coming up next. And we're going to close the show off with a little Alabama Shakes. Hold on.
There you go. Thank you.
Nice one. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Good job.
Say bye, Darren.